Hey everyone, this is Patrick, and it is time for another edition of Heavy Therapy. Let's go over some more new metal releases. This time they all came out on Friday, September 15th. This was a big week for new releases. I got to 5 of them, and let's go ahead and start. So, first up is Gridlink and their album Coronet Juniper. Gridlink is a grindcore band from Hoboken, New Jersey. This album comes with 11 tracks and about 17 minutes and 30 seconds of music. So it's in, it's out, it's quick, it's gone. So I did only listen to this once. This is the type of sort of the niche that Gridlink sit in is the cyber grind sound. So it's grindcore, but it's very modern. It evokes sort of a cybernetic future. It evokes just a very digital presence, very digital mindset. So this is actually my first exposure to Gridlink, and I will say what I was impressed by was the riffs. I did enjoy the riff work. I like when the riff, the sort of tremolo riff sounded more black metal than you usually hear on a lot of on a lot of grind records. That said, I didn't love the drum performance. It kind of was monotonous. It was just sort of that blasty, monotonous sound. They didn't really develop any of these songs. They're very short, and I don't have a problem with grind. I don't have a problem with short songs. Sometimes it works very well. This just kind of came in one ear, flew out the other. So I am going to give this a 7 out of 10 because it is definitely a solid album. If you are interested in grind at all, cyber grind, give this a listen. You might like it more than I did. The vocal performance, vocalist, he stood out as someone who's very distinct yet familiar. But yeah, 7 out of 10 for me. Gridlink from New Jersey and their album Coronet Jupiter. Let's move on to, I believe this is a debut album from an Indianapolis, Indiana-based death metal band, Flesher, with Tales of Grotesque Demise. This is 9 tracks, almost 36 minutes of music, and this right away made me want to think of them as a sort of doomier, slower 200 stab wounds. It has sort of that punchy, stabby riff style that 200 stab wounds has. If you want Obituary to sound heavier, take a listen to Flesher, Tales of Grotesque Demise. Other bands that I thought of while listening: Cannibal Corpse, Dying Fetus, Asphyx, and Cruelty. Overall, though, I am going to only give this a 7 out of 10. If you love those bands that I just mentioned, if you love 200 Stab Wounds in terms of vocals and in terms of just their energetic style, but slow down slightly, give Flesher a listen. Cool album cover art. It actually is by Ed Repka of Scream Buddy Gore and Leprosy fame. So really cool to see him back. Not exactly his usual style. So that was kind of cool to learn about this album. Flesher, Tales of Grotesque Demise, out on Redefining Darkness, 7 out of 10 for me. Okay, I am going to save the 2 biggest releases for last, so let's first just bring up Alterage and their album Worst Case Scenario. 8 tracks, almost 37 minutes of music, out in Dementia Records. Alterage play Portal-style avant-garde experimental death metal. This time around, though, I heard some sludge, and just they have been working on their sound throughout the last decade or so, and I think they perfected it on this album. They have a really cool sort of start-stop cut riff style in a handful of these songs. They bring it back to end the record like that, where you sort of have this false ending and then this big riff. Big riff that just drives the album home at the end of the record. So yeah, I really, really enjoyed Alterage Worst Case Scenario. I'm giving it an 8.8 out of 10 after 2 listens. Possibly my favorite Alterage work to date. So yeah, sort of sludgy, slightly hardcore influenced experimental death metal. If you love Portal, check out Alterage with Worst Case Scenario. Okay, the 2 big releases are final. Here we go. They're both somewhat surprise releases. So Blood Incantation recently announced a 2-track Luminescent Bridge EP. 2 tracks, 18 minutes and 34 seconds of music, out on Century Media. Blood Incantation started in 2011 from Denver, Colorado. They are sort of one of the heavyweights of cosmic death metal. They have 2 fantastic albums before this, and immediately before this EP, they put out a krautrock ambient project as an EP under the name Blood Incantation. Very divisive record. Everybody was wondering if they were going to forever sort of let go of death metal. And they have not. They never were planning on, getting rid of being a... They never planned on stopping being a death metal project. I recently saw them live earlier this year with Immolation. And they were fantastic live. Sounded perfect. Spot on. Really, really impressive to see live. So here you have their Luminescent Bridge EP, which even in the title itself, right, they are saying this is a bridge. We are back. We are going to write a full length. We're going to have a full length for you very soon. Here's these 2 tracks that will bridge the past or the present to the future incarnation of Blood Incantation. So they present this to us by a side A track called Obliquity of the Ecliptic, which is a death metal track, and then side B track Luminescent Bridge itself, which is more of their ambient style. So first up, the death metal track is pretty good. Death metal, I love the sort of almost simple for Blood Incantation. It's a more simplified, chuggy riff that they carry for the majority of this song. The song itself, though, is about the halfway point. They bring in ambience into the death metal track, and it basically ends that way. So it's out of 18 total minutes, you get about 4 or 5 minutes of proper death metal. What I like about side B, Luminescent Bridge, is it is their more ambient work, but you actually hear drums and guitars in it. So I wouldn't be surprised if the next full length really features more prominently their ambient work, but played by, the traditional metal rock instrumentation, as opposed to being heavily reliant on synth work, let's say. So this EP did what an EP is supposed to do. It reminds you of the band. I like the mood that it set, and it does make me feel positive towards a future release. I am going to give it a fake alien head, fake alien body, obviously fake alien body presentation that you saw in the Mexican Congress this last week. Head out of 10. So next up is the biggest release of the week, a surprise release. It was only announced a week ago. Two Mold are back, and this is their 4th full-length album called The Enduring Spirit, out on 20 Bucks Spin. This album is 7 tracks and almost 43 minutes of music. It's Derek Vela on guitars. It is Max on drums and vocals, and Payson on guitars. Derek is also playing a fretless bass on this album as well. So, oh boy, there are lots of opinions about this album. Most people I have seen love it, though some people, it is falling flat to their ears. And here's why. So, Two Mode is, before this, mostly cavernous, old school death metal. Production was sort of not muddy, but that type of cavernous production, um, very distorted, and there was technicality to it. There was progressive elements to it already, but this is a big leap forward. This is a straight up progressive death metal album. And I also see it as a death metal album that is trying to progress death metal itself, not just simply be a sort of progressive death metal album. And what do I mean by that? It's actually hard to articulate. I think what I mean by that is it doesn't exactly sound like a tried and true traditional, what we would call a progressive death metal album. It really sounds like Two Mode still, the more I listen to it. And that was my fear, was that as soon as it kicked on, I noticed that it was going to be a bit more progressive. The production was cleaner, and I hoped that they would still have the heaviness, that they would still have the grooves, and that the vocal style, which is low guttural, wouldn't really change at all. And that's what you see on The Enduring. That's what you hear on The Enduring Spirit. This album to me is perfect. It is hard. I can't imagine giving it anything less than a 10 out of 10. So that's what I am giving it, a 10 out of 10. I don't hear the cynic influences in this, as some people are saying. I do hear late era death. I do hear atheist. But I mostly hear Tomb Mold breaking through what they've already created, pushing it forward, refining it, exploring their other influences that you might hear in Derek's side project Dream Unending. But this is how you write a progressive death metal album, trying to push the boundaries of death metal in 2023. And fantastic riff work, fantastic song development. The track order is perfect in the way that they blend into each other. The final track is 11 and a half minutes. And I will say this, if that track would have ended with the ambient section kind of just fading out, probably would have fell for me. It didn't, right? They turn it back up towards the end of the album. They bring you some more death metal, and that's how I wanted them to end that track, and they did. So you can tell a lot of attention to detail on this album. Yeah, there's a handful of releases that will fight for my top spot of the year, but no doubt this one is right up there. There's been a few other 10 out of 10s for me this year. Some I might have covered on First Reaction, some I haven't, but we will see at the end of the year how that all plays out for me, and I'm curious to hear how you all think about these albums plus other albums that came out this week. So leave me a comment if you so desire. Tomb Mold, The Enduring Spirit. Once again, $20 spin. Having a fantastic year. And that is all for you. And remember to stay heavy. Bye.